Right.
Speaking of the pod.
Oh, is it recorded?
Yeah.
Just waffling.
I thought I'd just get us going straight away.
Now everyone's going to know our deepest, darkest secrets as we were chatting naturally.
I'm going to cut that bit out. We were slagging you all off. Joking, of course. What we were talking about top secret things that you guys can't know about yet.
Yep. not healthy fitness related things.
No, we're just waffling on about life, really.
Chatting shit.
Just chatting shit. Not getting banged.
I said to you earlier, I called it Chat Shit Get Banged Again. I don't even know the name of my own podcast.
We'll get there one day. We need to celebrate because we've got over 100 of you guys following us on the journey now, which is so exciting.
I think we would have been happy if 3 people started listening to the podcast. And I think people are going to start guessing where we're going to be next week as we've changed locations so many times.
Yeah, sorry everybody. We've got cold feet and basically we're experimenting to see what is going to be the best location for us visually, for our schedules, and just making sure that we can provide a fantastic set for you guys. So let us know what you think. Are we liking the green fairy wall? Are we not?
Get a little healthy fitness.
Yeah.
And as much as I'm sure people loved seeing Romeo and Pudding, a sleeping 18-month-old child upstairs,
yeah,
a dog, 2 cats, 2 rabbits, is not ideal podcast recording. Basically,
in short, filming at Ben's house has been giving him a nervous breakdown. So we're not going to do that going forward. We tried it. It kind of worked. But we need to protect Ben's peace, everyone. So we've got a new location today. Let us know what you think. We're thinking about, like Ben said, pimping it out, but we'll see.
Lift shit, get banged.
Yeah.
Chat shit, get banged. Mugs.
Yeah.
Get some merch going.
We'll make it look cool. So yeah, let us know. We've got another really exciting topic for you guys today, which has come from check-ins that we've been doing this week and something that we've not really spoken about before at all, really. So I think it would be a cool one to cover.
Our best ideas for podcast topics come from conversations we have with clients, and something we speak about all the time is when we feel like the scale starts to become problematic, because especially on social media, you'll see kind of 2 camps of coaches saying chuck the scale in the bin, some saying that you should embrace the scale and build a healthy relationship with it. And not just in coaching, just out like with our own relationships with the scale, we like to explore, can we create a relationship with it where we don't fear it and we don't immediately feel like we need to get rid of it and it's the devil and we need to avoid it at all costs. But there are times when it does become unhelpful.
What is your experience with it and your own journey? Have you had a comfortable relationship with the scale, or have you felt like it has been a turbulent relationship?
Interestingly, something you said earlier made me think about my own relationship with the scale, and I've always had a fairly positive relationship with it, but when in the depths of fat loss, I have absolutely found myself eating dinner earlier so that I will be lighter on the scale the next day. Reducing my water intake earlier in the evening so that I'll have a lighter weigh-in. Waking up and celebrating when I've had a big poo.
Sentences you won't hear anywhere else, guys.
Knowing that it's going to lead to a new low weigh-in.
Yeah.
And I'd never even really reflected on that myself, and I think that's a really good point that you made, which we'll circle back to, not to jump ahead, how they're kind of the subtle things that we don't even realise aren't necessarily ideal. Tweaking these little things just at the hopes that we see a lighter weigh-in on a daily basis, not even looking at the bigger picture. What's your relationship been like? Very
similar. I went a number of years without any scales in the house at all. And that was part of my eating disorder recovery. So it was important for me not to have the scales there at all, because at the time the focus was on my relationship with food, my relationship with self. And there were a good number of years where, scales were completely out of the picture. And I remember actually working with my first coach and...
So Harriet?
Yeah, it was Harriet. Yes. And one of the first things we spoke about, and I said, I know that my relationship with the scale was turbulent. And we went through, in fact, the exact same process that we do with our clients, which was learning how to think more rationally about the scale, looking at the data, what it means, and zooming out and looking at the bigger picture. Over the years, there have been times, as you said, when I have gone deeper into a diet phase. For example, a couple of years ago, I did get quite lean at one point, which was my goal. That's what I wanted, and I felt comfortable doing that. But I did start to notice some of those patterns creep back in. So, for example, I would have a good day if I got on the scale and it was lower. Or I would intentionally perhaps not drink any water before getting on the scale, or I would feel like my progress wasn't heading in the right direction if I got on the scale and I hadn't seen as big a change as I wanted to. And rationally, I know that that doesn't impact my progress overall. I knew that at the time. It's something that we coach, it's something that we teach. And I think it was just a case of, okay, I'm recognising these patterns creep in again and being able to put a hold to it. Yeah. But this is what we want to talk to you guys about today, because you guys aren't coaches and it might be more difficult for you to recognise those patterns. Yeah. So that's what we're here for today, to kind of run you through what might look like a negative relationship with the scale and when it actually might be best to take the scale out and go through a phase or even forever without using it at all.
I think it really shows that if we as coaches who talk to people every single day, just over 100 clients that we coach on a weekly basis with the group and one-to-one, for us to be still experiencing that nearly a decade into our own journeys, it shows just how impactful it can be. And what really overpins everything that we're going to kind of break down and go into, scenario where stepping on the scale and it going down means we've had a good day, or stepping on the scale and it going up means that we've done bad and we've not. If it feels like a negative reflection on our actions that doesn't actually marry up to what we've been doing, if we've been being consistent but that scale goes up and we think, I must have been doing everything wrong, I can't have been being consistent, what a waste of time, and the frustration it brings in, that kind of underpins everything that we're going to go into, doesn't it?
Let's give an example of what we would see as a really great client week. So most of our clients we check in with officially on a weekly basis. What actually would be a fantastic week, which we notice sometimes that people undermine with a negative scale measurement?
Following through on the things that the client says that they want to do for themselves, and that can be so individual, but we're going to think about things like showing up for our training sessions. Again, what I just said doesn't mean that it has to be 3 perfect training sessions. It doesn't mean that it has to be 7 days of perfect tracking or 7 days of being mindful with the decisions that we're trying to make, specific to us and what we're trying to focus on. The biggest thing that a lot of people miss when they're going through their journey on their own is the impact that life has on that journey. Like, if I'm mapping out what the next phase is going to look like for someone, we're creating a list of intentions, not a list of must happen expectations. And I know it's easy for us to say when we're not the person going through that journey, but the scale doesn't even really come into that. When I look at a client having a good week, it's not about the scale. We will use that as a tool to gauge, is this one indicator that we're making progress towards our fat loss goal? It's about showing up and trying our best to follow through on what we said we were going to do that week. That's really all that comes to mind when I think about a client having a good week.
So if you have had a week where we've trained well, eaten well, mood is good, sleep is good, you know, these are kind of the practical markers that we're thinking of here. You've had a great week with your nutrition, your steps have been in a good place, you've been moving outside of your training sessions, and you come to your check-in point with your coach and say, you know what, it's been a fantastic week, I'm doing all the things, and this is the end point that we see, but the scale hasn't moved. What am I doing wrong? There must be something going wrong. And this is where we want to emphasize that because that number hasn't moved, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It doesn't mean that you're having a bad week. In fact, if you hadn't mentioned anything, we wouldn't have picked up on it at all. We would have picked up on it, but we wouldn't have mentioned it to you because it's not important. It's not something that we're marking your progress from. And what we are evaluating your progress on is all of the above. Are you following through with the actions that you said that you want to take?
How I would look at the scale in a client check-in or on a call is I would look at what percentage change to our body weight have we seen over the period of at least 2-3 weeks, if not a month.
Yeah.
And the reason why we'd look at percentage change, and I would encourage anyone that feels like they're kind of on that border of, I think I feel okay about the scale, but it does really get to me sometimes. Look at percentage change because it's contextual to you as an individual. And me losing 2 pounds in a week, being 100 kilos, is not the same as you losing 2 pounds in a week. Contextually, it's very different. But if me and you were to look at percentage change, and I'm not trying to say that we should compare fat loss progress.
That's not what we're saying.
That's not what we're saying, but
hypothetically,
that percentage change gives context so that number of I've lost a pound or I've lost 2 pounds or I've only lost half a pound has context behind it. It's not just an absolute number.
I said to a client the other day, she mentioned in her check-in, over the last 8 weeks, she's only lost 5 kilos. And I said, what do you mean you've only lost 5 kilos? What are we comparing this to?
Yeah.
We will likely see anywhere between 0.1 to a kilo of fat loss each week. That is such a broad range.
Yeah.
And as long as over kind of the course of, as you said, 2-3 weeks, we're seeing some kind of movement, that's normally a pretty good indicator that things are ticking in the right direction. But I think I'll also add in there, I've also worked with a multitude of clients where we've seen barely any change at all, but we've seen fantastic body recomposition. And one of the reasons why we really focus on measurements and progress pictures and how you're feeling as well, because if you are simultaneously building muscle and going through lots of recomp changes, you know, we might not actually see any major changes on the scales at all. And that's also completely okay. Everyone's journey is so individual.
With that context of not just a percentage change, but context of what position are you in as an individual when you are trying to achieve that fat loss goal? Like right now, I would like to go into a fat loss phase at some point, but I'm not doing it right now because I know that so many other areas in my life are so chaotic at the minute, like trying to juggle being a dad, trying to run a business. If I was to go into a fat loss phase, it wouldn't be an even playing field for me compared to previous fat loss phases I've done in the past. Let's say we're starting a health and fitness journey, either on our own or with a coach. We might not realize it at the time, but we might need to spend 3 to 6 months just building some really foundational habits and rewiring what we think we need to do and what we want to do at that moment in time. And that rewiring happens through kind of living those experiences and going, okay, actually that me losing 5 kilos in 5 weeks didn't quite go how I expected. That context of what is our starting point? What are the steps to actually getting to the point where we feel like we can make quick fat loss progress and expect to have the scale over the long term trend in that direction? Because sometimes, and we see it all the time, there's steps before we actually get to that. More often than not, there's multiple steps.
I would
before
argue
we
that
get
actually
to that
that's
point.
the brunt of it. The fat loss part actually comes afterwards. The hard part is chipping away and, like you said, working out what comes before that, setting expectations, working out what is going to be a feasible timeline for you.
Being in a position to go, okay, now I think I've got the tools to be able to pursue fat loss. So we've definitely fleshed out kind of a few general themes of why we would use the scale, how we would approach it, kind of giving it some flesh. At what point do you feel like we should not use the scale? We should step away from it completely?
Certain patterns or behaviours that you are picking up on, or potentially that even your coach has picked up on, where we can flag that you will get so much benefit from coming away from looking at the number and looking at the data and focusing more on everything that we've just spoken about, the behaviours and how you're feeling and the actual practices that are going to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
That might look like checking the scales or getting on the scales at multiple points during the day to see if it's gone any lower. So for example, if you have just had a poop and then you get on the scale afterwards to check if it's gone down. If you wake up and you think, oh, I didn't really eat much last night, I'm going to see if I can get my lowest scale measurement. Another one. So just a couple of examples there. If you are noticing, so point number 2, if you are noticing that your mood is dictated by the number after you measure yourself and that it's impacting the rest of your day. So for example, I get on the scales in the morning and it hasn't moved. Now I'm a piece of shit and the rest of my day I'm thinking about it and it is having an impact on how I feel, my self-worth, the way that I'm showing up for myself during the day. Number 3, if you are adjusting your eating patterns and behaviours to reach a certain number, and I don't mean healthy patterns and behaviours that you're working on with your coach, I mean potentially bringing in restrictive behaviours. So this could look like something like skipping dinner the night before you get on the scales in the morning. It might look like not drinking any water before getting on the scales. It might look like introducing laxative teas or supplements or any kind of adjustments that you wouldn't normally make if the scale wasn't involved and you're doing it simply for the purpose of reaching that number. To close or summarize all of that is if you are finding that your focus is more so on attaining a certain number rather than viewing your success as the way that you're showing up for yourself in the day and the practices and the behaviours and you feeling good. If you are undermining everything that you are doing with whatever results that number has given you that week. So like we said right at the beginning, if you're showing up in your check-ins or even just on reflection with yourself and saying, why is the scale not moving? I'm doing all the things that I should be doing and nothing is changing. That is also likely a good time to think about, okay, is the scale actually serving me or not?
We can't deny that people are going to set weight targets because that means something to them. A cool reframe would be to view that number as when I reach that number, or if I reach that number, I will ask myself, does this feel how I imagined it to? How our body feels, the confidence that we've gained, the muscle, the strength, the journey that we've been through, the habits we've built, that might happen 3 kilos heavier than we thought it was going to. And it's fine to set weight targets, but that number, we just want to be a point to ask, does this feel how I thought it was going to?
That's so interesting because I can't tell you how many clients that I've worked with and we've reached a certain number and they've said, actually, my goal target was 5 kilos lighter than this, but I don't actually want to push to go to that point now because I feel really happy with how I feel at this number. And it's so interesting to watch that journey. Using the scales, and I think we'll kind of close it on this, is that using the scales is such a useful point of data when we're looking at it alongside other things. And it doesn't mean that the scales is the enemy. The scales are not the enemy. They can be so incredibly helpful to use if you feel like you have a comfortable relationship with them and you can look at that number as data only and it's not impacting you in the ways that we've just spoken about. And we have lots of clients that do use the scales and find it incredibly helpful. Or we might even use it for a while and then come away, and that's fine. You know, reminding anybody that does use the scales, you know, it's not about the individual measurements. It's about zooming out, looking at the bigger picture, comparing it to other data. And if you have, you know, recently, and you're not too sure kind of where you're at, if you're on the edge of, I've been doing this for a couple of weeks now and I'm still not feeling okay with it, I don't know if the scales are serving me or not, I would say if you've been attempting to use them for a good kind of, I would say 3 to 4 weeks, and you're still finding kind of a lot of those negative behaviours creeping in and you're not able to look at them as rationally as you would like to, that is likely going to be a good point to have that conversation either with your coach or, you know, just with yourself to cut them out. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will see you guys on the next episode of Live Shit.
Get banged.
Woohoo!